All right, hello everyone, and welcome to episode number 32 of Verdicts of the Ancient Kings. Love won't thaw Thixel's heart. You know what? I have no idea why I need. Number 32 of Verdicts of the Ancient. Hello. Nice to know that I'm actually streaming because I'm monitoring the stream and it actually came back at me. So yes, it sounds like my audio is good. Nico, how are you doing today?
I'm good. Yeah, Lixil's heart won't thaw. Yeah, I guess she's kind of in love with Sapphire, just like Hogarth, huh?
Well, see that's a lot. A lot of people are wondering about that in particular. Like, what does this actually mean for the story, and what's really going on? Um, and the thing is, I've heard the story coming from some of the makers of the game and what they're trying to come across, and then there's some of the lore text. But based upon the Fate Weave card, the draw two Fate Weave card that we saw spoiled today,
Oh yeah.
it sounds like Frostheart is a sentient sapphire gem that is trying to stop Hogarth from doing something.
Yeah, interesting. And some people were speculating today, at least on our Discord, that Lixil will be remade and might be a Sapphire card. So we'll see if that happens. My guess is if Lixil is remade, it'll be similar to some other remakes where it might become a different rarity.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I don't know if that's similar to other remakes because Prince Taliesin, when he transformed, he was still legendary.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know.
Mm-hmm.
We'll see.
Yeah, it's going to be really interesting. I don't know if they are gonna, if there is a Lixil in this particular set. We'll have to wait and see. It looks like Lixil wasn't able to stop it based upon the other cards. Like whatever Hogarth was trying to do, wasn't able to completely stop it, and therefore you have like the Heartbreak card, or what was the Diamond Sapphire card that was spoiled? That is basically Comet Strike, but yeah,
Oh
Comet.
yeah, I think you're right. I think it's called Heartbreaker.
Mm-hmm.
Let me double check. Heartbreak. You're
Yep.
right.
So if you read the lore on that, it says specifically, or you can read the lore since you have the card up.
Yeah, it says despite Lixil's desperate assault, she wasn't able to disrupt Hogarth's ritual completely. Okay,
Okay, the
so
word completely is interesting.
yeah, that sounds kind of key. Like, if Hogarth got part of it off, like, what did it affect? Did Lixil become part of the ritual? Anyway, so it'll be interesting to see what happens there.
Yeah, so for all the lore junkies out there, they're going to be combing all of the cards coming up in Frostheart, and with common or core commons being released, there's going to be a lot more cards to read. I'm assuming the core commons probably won't have any sort of relevant lore for Frostheart, but I could be wrong. But we'll just have to wait and see as the cards do get released. It looks like there isn't much to talk about this week, but I have created some slides, and Nico has no idea what's coming. So let's go ahead and.
Yeah. Oh, one thing. I mean, as you're jumping ahead, I am looking at Frostheart Fractured, which is created from Heartbreak.
Mm-hmm.
The lore on that, or the flavor text, is as the giant gem cracked, energy began to pour out, and the arena's hold over Hogarth began to loosen. So he's escaping from the arena potentially. Who knows?
Oh, so Hogarth can go crazy and escape from the arena. We don't know what's gonna happen to Lixil. We don't know if what the ritual was supposed to do, but I'm assuming that since Hogarth was enslaved by Frostheart, which is the general consensus, and that's why he's getting free. Some sort of ritual to either get free or to maybe even destroy Frostheart. That if you want to get free of your master, that's one way to do it.
Yeah, I think this set. I wasn't super into Hex lore before, but I think this set is kind of getting me a little bit into the lore,
Mm-hmm.
just because it's more interactive. It crosses over to PvP side from PvE content I've enjoyed in the past, so I'm starting to kind of pay more attention to it.
Yeah, I think they did a really, really good job with this particular set, just making it a little bit more story driven. I've said it in the past where, like, there's so many card games out there that are simply just, hey, one side warring against another, here's cards that are in the war. And it didn't really seem thematically relevant, like what type of, like, ooh, this white green creature, troop, character, whatever, is an elf, is a warlock, is pick whatever race that you want. So yeah, we can talk more about that, but I really do like the direction that they are taking. Well, let's go ahead and jump right into what we have. And apparently this puzzle actually stumped a number of viewers.
Yeah, I was surprised too.
All right.
So yeah, go ahead.
All right, so I'll go ahead. Here's the puzzle. I'll let Nico go into the solution, but basically it was win this turn. You're playing Scars of War Limited. Your opponent's at 7 life. They have 0 cards in hand, 3 of 6 resources. So you assume that they just played the Skyspire Scholar, and they're gonna start getting card advantage on you, and you want to try and finish it off. You have 4 resources, 1 diamond threshold, 1 wild threshold, 2 cards in hand which are both actions. 0 cards in deck, so no drawing cards, and 0 charges, so you cannot use your charge power. And some people actually wrote around and said, well, what's the solution? People are sending you screenshots of all the possible cards, and you're like, yeah, the cards are there. So why don't you go ahead and break it down for them?
Yeah, so as you're seeing here on the screen, the solution involves both crossing swords and blindside. So the interesting trick here, and you may not have realized this when you look at the card Crossing Swords, is that once you cast Crossing Swords, which is basic action, it gives your troop an anytime exhaust power until the end of the turn. So you can use that ability as a kind of an instant speed ability. So if you declare an attack with your Royal Halberdier after you've cast Crossing Swords, your Royal Halberdier will still be able to attack and not exhaust because it has Steadfast, which is one of the keys to the puzzle. And then after it declares an attack, you can then use Crossing Swords and exhaust it to kill off one of the troops. Before the damage goes through and resolves, you can cast Blindside. So the Blindside, instead of you just doing the 4/4 damage with Crossing Swords, will make your Halberdier a 7/7. And then your Halberdier will ready, and then you can again exhaust to kill off the remaining troop. So all of a sudden you're attacking with the 7/7 that's exhausted, and there's no other blockers that can be declared. So you're just going to get in with lethal damage.
Yeah, so like hopefully you actually guys learned something with this one. A little bit of interactions here, Crossing Swords, basic action, blindside, the quick action there. A lot of people probably weren't looking to blindside since the Halberdier is a steadfast troop, so you'd have to think to yourself, how do I actually exhaust the Halberdier and get everything across? So hats off to Koto the Mage. He is this week's winner. We do have 2 runner-ups again, Thand and Griffinheart, and Thand has been a runner-up more times than I can count. So other people, please submit. We'd like to see some new names in there. Last week, I think Vorengard ended up getting a complete set of Hex Convocation 2015. So if you guys are wondering what that is, that's Stormcoat, Cloud King, Cloud Queen, Storm of the Century, Alternate Art, Storm Cloud, the Cloud King sleeves, and all the other equipment.
Yeah, it's an incredible prize. It's like if you, I mean, I don't know what it's worth now, but like back in the day when I remembered the pricing for the cards, it has like almost an equivalent of $100 value just for doing a funny puzzle. So if you guys like these, more power to you, because we're actually giving away really cool prizes. And I just want to say something funny about Griffinheart. He's always the runner-up. He was the very first Salty Sam, so he has epic Salty Sam sleeves.
I played against Griffinheart a couple of times, but yeah, hopefully he doesn't listen to this and get a little bit more salty. All right, so what I really wanted to dive into in this particular week's podcast and video is basically the limited meta and trying to predict what the limited meta is going to be. In terms of the constructed meta, it's constantly changing, constantly in flux, so you're never really going to know what is out there. But in limited, in sealed, in evoed, and evo, and in draft, there are specific archetypes that we should be looking at, and you should either be drafting around or you should be looking at as you try and build your deck. So we're trying to equip you guys with what we've noticed as some of the archetypes that are coming out, so you might be able to get a little bit of a heads up in the upcoming limited weekend, which should be coming fairly soon. I know a lot of people. I know Kent Ketter has been predicting the 27th. I think Nico's been predicting the 27th as well. I can't predict anything because, well, yeah,
NDA.
NDA. I can't predict anything, but we'll see how things go. But I'm taking a look at all of the shard pairings, taking a look at a blood shard, diamond shard. This was I knew that this was going to be spoiled in the coming weeks and since last week, and it's that constant deck that I was talking about.
That looks cool, and I really like that new Twilight card that was spoiled. The, what is it, 5/5 Flight Life Drain that can be played for free if you have a Daybreak and Nightfall in play.
Yep, and with Papa Groot, or is it Groot or Papa?
Yeah, Papa Goot or something that you have a Daybreak, you can have him play by turn 3.
Yeah, so you're guaranteed a Daybreak. All you need is a Nightfall, and then if you can play one of the other cards that give you a Nightfall or a Nightfall, then you can go ahead and play that 6-cost 5/5. I think it's a Life Drain Steadfast Flight Troop.
Yeah. Oh, I didn't remember Steadfast, but it was a pretty great troop anyway.
Yeah.
And then I did see a funny combo mentioned on the forum that, if somehow you can get a Necrophet and play and get that buff onto that card, you can play it for free forever. This cost just keeps going up.
Yeah, its cost goes up, but you can play it for free as long as you still have that Daybreak and the Nightfall. Also, the Twilight Constant being the first card that we've seen that isn't a troop that has Life Drain. That
is an interesting one.
That can also deal damage.
Strong too.
Yeah. So with the number of constants that you can have, being able to, I guess, quote unquote, live the dream, Diamond Blood does definitely look like it's looking at that constant Twilight, Nightfall, Daybreak deck. Should be very popular in Limited if no one else drafts that particular archetype.
Yeah, what's interesting to me is like if you track the color combos over time, like so set 5 was Twilight Revenant, Gorn Rage.
Mm-hmm.
Set 6 was Sockets Matter, Blood Diamond, and now set 7 is going to be Constants Matter, Blood Diamond. So I just think it's pretty cool how it's like slowly morphing over time, like what the meta will look like based on the cards that are being printed.
Yeah, and talking about meta and shifting piece, we can talk about Blood Diamond a lot. And they did a very good job. Like, I was looking at all of the combinations, and I could pretty much find a very, very fleshed out theme in all of the pairs. And moving right along, we're going to go into Diamond Ruby. I think Diamond Ruby is probably one of those...
Yeah, Illuminate.
Yeah, Illuminate, very, very easy off the bat. You know that you're going to be trying to Illuminate. You're going to be getting those clerics. Your champion power is going to be 4 cost. Illuminate 1. It's going to... I think this is one of the easier ones that kind of jump out to everyone.
I think this color combination is really going to be about the bombs. Because if you open up one of those rares or legendaries that are Illuminate based or the dragon, I think you're going to have a real fun time building around that concept, especially for draft. I feel like the bombs in Ruby Diamond Illuminate seem to be maybe a small hand above some of the bombs you might get in other formats, or other archetypes, but I'm not 100% sure. It just seems that way based on what I've seen spoiled so far.
Yeah, but what's interesting is because Illuminate just jumps out at you, especially in draft, other people, you might be competing with more than one other person for Illuminate, which which means, like, you know what, you might have that bomb, but you may not have the necessary support cards out there. Like, you might have 1 or 2 Candlekin out on the field, and then you're like, I can Illuminate for 4. Do I give my 1 Candlekin +4/+4, or do I put down 4 1/1s? And you have to sit there and you have to think about it.
Yeah, tough choices.
All right, moving right along, we go to Sapphire Wild, and this is the Merry Caravan. Um,
Oh, that yeah, I guess it is, but for what it's worth, I think they just mentioned on Twitter that they're going to expose more of the Merry Caravan tomorrow. So
y-
we still don't know a lot about the Merry Caravan. We do know it's kind of a Fey based one where there will be some effects that are going to revert and transform, like kind of Princess Corey tech stuff.
mhm,
We know that there's that champion that is the butterfly that's going to turn one of our troops, or Puff, the cloud guy,
mhm.
that's going to turn one of our troops into a butterfly.
Yeah.
But yeah, it looks like it's going to be fun to play. It's going to kind of be more of the RNG based format. And it'll be interesting. I'm not the spell song sweeties. I don't know if I've seen that before.
Well, that's what I actually wanted to say. This is actually technically Verdicts of the Ancient Kings is a podcast that releases on June 20th.
Oh, okay. This is a card that we get to spoil, right?
This is the card we get to spoil.
Oh, no wonder. I'm like, okay, I haven't looked at that email in a while. Okay, this is a card we're spoiling it. Great.
You crack me up. All right, so 2 costs. It is a diamond and sapphire threshold, and it says once per turn, when another troop you control transforms, this transforms into a copy of that troop. So if you use the puff, the rainbow, you can have 2 4/4 flyers on that particular turn. You can but at the end of the turn or at the start of your next turn, the Merry Butterfly does say revert this as well. So there is going to be a lot of transforming and reverting. It looks like the Merry Caravan may also have a number of key cards out there that do a bit of when a card transforms. So something happens when a card transforms.
So I don't need to play Lorenzo in my puff deck to get 2 4/4 flyers. I like it.
Yep, and yeah, as a 2-drop 2/2 body that can turn into, I don't know, the squirrel, the butterfly, whatever other type of merry things that are out there. It's gonna be really nice to see.
Awesome. Yeah, that's a cool card. I'm surprised I forgot about that. I think I like just kind of glazed over it, saw that you responded, and like, yeah, we got it. Didn't even realize how powerful that was as a individual card. And in the uncommon slot, there's a high chance you'll get more than one of these if you're drafting the archetype.
Yep, definitely. All right, moving right along, we have the Blood Sapphire, which is the Chaos Touch, the Librarian that was released last week. A lot of the berry effects out there.
Yeah,
I
yeah
don't know.
this will be interesting. I think that this might be my favorite archetype to try to force in both limited and well in both like Evo and also draft, because playing mill is just fun because you're kind of fishbowling it in a way where you're not really too concerned about what your opponent's doing. You're just trying to make sure they don't have any cards left in their deck.
Mhm.
And then you're kind of giggling a little bit when they're not getting resources because you milled them. And it's fun. Yeah, it's annoying to play against, but it's kind of fun to play. So
Yeah, I remember back in set 1, set 2 when you could actually play mill, and it
yeah.
was a lot of fun. Like daisies were fun, and
Oh
you,
yeah.
you were playing Hex, but you were essentially playing a different game than what other people were expecting you to play, and it's just another way to try and win that's outside the realm of control or the realm of evasion or the realm of big bomb, single turn dreadling wins that we have in this limited archetype, or all the evasion and Ada and all the flyers that we have as well. So I really, really do like them introducing Mill back into limited. How successful it is going to be in, say, a draft is going to be dependent on how many other people like Blood Sapphire and grab those cards. If no one else is competing against you, then you got a pretty good chance.
Yeah, I think it might be more highly contested because there are a lot of this type of mill format is a little different where not only are you milling, but you have troops that can get huge damage and be unblockable on top of mill.
Hmm.
So you have like two different strategies to go. But I just one flashback kind of cool thing way back in the days, as you mentioned, set two. I remember during, I think it was a release celebration for set two where it was all set two packs. Me and another guy on our Discord, well, I think it was Ventrilo at the time, we would compete to see how many daisies we could get. I think I got like 6 or 7 in a single draft. It was pretty fun.
That sounds great and horrible all at the same time. All right,
True.
moving right along, we are moving to Diamond and Sapphire, and I have a picture of Hogarth here. And if you guys remember, this is what I am calling the Frost form archetype, where you are going to curve out very, very well because you can either play the troop that you have for its full cost or two less for its frost form cost, and it still has some sort of good effect. Hogarth controlling the Frost Ring Arena. I believe all of the frost form troops are either Diamond and Sapphire.
And there'll be a lot of Fate Weave and these combinations, and potentially a lot of Necrotic as well. Some very nice Diamond Necrotics have been spoiled, so this will be an interesting like utility evasion deck from what I gather, and you might have some particularly good like removal cards as well. Sapphire is even getting some nice removal from what I've seen, where Sapphire never has hard removal, but their removal looks a lot better than it has in the past so far.
Yeah, I think are you alluding to Into the Unknown?
Yeah, that card's crazy, and yeah, I would be curious because that's almost like a hero fall. Like, what if that's the next Clash card? We'll see.
Well, so for those of you guys who haven't been keeping up, Into the Unknown is a 3-cost double Sapphire threshold card that says return target card to owner's hand. That card and all other copies of the card in decks transforms into another card of the same shard, I believe.
Yeah,
General
the same
gist.
shard. And
So,
the funny thing about the thing that always bothers me about Sapphire is like there's always a cost, right? Like you're not completely getting rid of the card. So what if it transforms into something scarier? Now, yeah, I'm not always worried about that as much in constructed, but in limited, I'm like, oh god, but do I really want to do this right now?
yeah, whatever you are transforming, it has to be very central to the theme of the deck. Some sort of like I don't know what are the big themes like Dark Heart or MC out there are probably good examples. You could probably transform those into resources on accident, which is highly hilarious since they are quote unquote shardless. There are a lot of shards out there that you can or resources out there that you can transform into.
Yeah, and the other fun thing to transform something into now is actually a socketed card, because I guess now when you transform a card into a socketed card, it doesn't actually get a socket. So that's a nice little rule change that happened that makes transforming into something that has a socket less advantageous.
Oh, interesting. So if you create a card that has a socket, it will get socketed. But if you transform a card into a card that has a socket, it will not get socketed.
Yeah, I believe so. I've had some interactions with it recently. I always get a fuzzy little glossy look in my face like when it happens because I still haven't 100% taken it in, but I'm pretty sure that's how it interacts in the client now.
All right. So, well, moving right along, we are moving into Blood Wild, which is I would like to say the Death Cry Blight Bark, like the elf warlock and vampires that we've seen, just utilizing a lot of the death cries that are going on out there. Also the abominations and the other 1/1 undead plants in the socket category.
Yeah, this format in limited is going to be, I think it's going to be super fun to play, but also really hard to track in terms of like how you're chaining things together. It seems Death Cry just has like taken off, and it's so much more I'm gonna have to revisit the Kakaku deck I just made for PvE because all these new Deathcry things are like getting me pretty excited for what that might look like in the future. But in terms of limited, I don't know what to think quite yet. Like if everything that we've seen so far in set 7 is the only Deathcry stuff we see, it's still going to be solid. But then there could be so much more Deathcry that we haven't seen yet as well that's just going to add to this archetype. And we also have the new Deathcry socketed gem as well that will really help with making this format a solid one to play.
Yeah, it's gonna be a lot of fun. What's interesting is the amount of overlap. Like, there's ten shard combinations. So just because you're like, okay, I'm drafting a wild ruby, which we will get to, which is the pack,
Gladiator,
right? And it's gonna be very very heavy gladiator. You might, but someone else could be drafting blood wild, and they may be passing you some of the wild cards that have the death cry, while you're passing the gladiator cards to them as well. So just be like, you're gonna have to look not just at the shards, but also does it work with your deck thematically in terms of gladiator building on top of gladiator, death cry building on top of death cry, fate weave building on top of fate weave.
I don't know about you, Crota, but I'm pretty excited to play this limited format. I might have to like invest in some more plat just so I can grind the heck out of this and have fun. So I don't know, but I have a feeling that I'm going to play a lot of this limited format.
Yeah, it feels that way. So for me, looking at Diamond Wild and actually Blood Ruby were the two that I had the hardest time trying to predict what their actual types were. But Diamond Wild, it looks like it's tending or leaning towards a little bit more Fate Weave. Don't get me wrong, Fate Weave is something that can go throughout all of the cards or all of the shards. Or no, not all of all of the resources or shards out there. So, but I think there's going to be a heavier emphasis, especially with guidance that we saw in the diamond, and then we also saw some other really strong Fate Weave cards. So, drafting Fate Weave seems a little bit strange, because all it really means is you're going to be getting good quality cards, but you may not have as many bombs as some of the others.
Yeah, and the thing about Diamond Wild and also Blood Ruby is that in every limited format, those two color pairings always are the hardest to kind of evaluate, but sometimes they're the best to play. And it really depends on the cards you get, but there are some real good, very strong cards that you can draft because they might not fit into a particular format, but they're just strong cards by themselves.
Mm-hmm.
And I end up seeing that a lot for this color pairing and Blood Ruby as well. In fact, it seems to be true throughout all of the limited formats we've had. I think the most formidable Diamond Wild format we've seen in the past was the Ghost Whisperer format in set 3-4. But since then, I don't quite know what to think about set 7 Diamond Wild, but you might be spot on with like Fate Weave being popular. There could be Gladiator Splash, Fate Weave Splash, Frostworm Splash. I'm just picking the best cards and actually making a very solid deck out of it.
Yeah. Diamond Wild, I think I've seen a couple Sacred Stance decks as well in draft, which is either very hit or miss. There's you just go with you first pick a Sacred Stance and you hope you get the Mooncall Ceremonies, the Eager Lackeys, more Sacred Stances. If you get a Blessed Scout and an Outpost, 2 Blessed Scouts and 2 Outposts, you're like, okay, I'm living the dream. I'm gonna be overrunning you with 7/7 1-drops by turn 5 or something. It's absolutely crazy. So we'll see what happens with Diamond Wild. All right, moving right along, we are going into the Ruby Wild Shard, which is the Pack and Gladiator. And this is an archetype that you really like, right, Nico?
I think it's going to be strong. I don't know. Like, based on the cards I've seen spoiled, like, I'm I'm more excited about other things now too.
Hmm.
Initially, at like first glance, when they first spoke about the keywords, Gladiator really stood out to me as a very solid limited mechanic.
Hmm.
But since then, I've kind of my thought process has changed a little bit around what I think might be the most effective. And based on some comments from like the Hex team and like even hearing some things from you, like Illuminate sounds like it's going to be real good. But I'm not really sold on one thing over the other. I do think Gladiator is a super solid mechanic for probably evolution. If you get decent Gladiator, you'll probably have a real good time in evolution because there's no guarantee that the removal will be solid in evolution format. And when there's a lack of removal, troops that have that can have a higher defense and attack will tend to trade better than other types of troops.
Yeah, so it's really going to come down to that, like whether or not you can go wide enough or you have that one bomb. In terms of Gladiator, I think Gladiator is something that you just have a lot of value in each troop when you need it. It sounds like Illuminate is just going to try and go wide, and some of the others are just trying to go big. So we'll figure out what happens here with the pack. One quick thought for me was I when I was making this slide, I put Ruby and Wild Shard together, and I instantly thought elves because that's right
True.
because that's what Ruby Wild has always been in the past sets. You're running elves, and now it's just strange to see an orc that's getting mind controlled and gladiatored and all like the cerebral jackhats that's going on here. So it's a bit of a shift from what I know of as Hex, but so far really enjoying it.
Yeah, and I'm gonna go try to look at a few cards right now. But one thing that I always wondered about is, and I'm gonna try to find an old now, but will they ever have other factions? Is it just Ardent and Underworld, or are like the Gnolls gonna have their own factions in the future? I don't think I've seen it on the cards yet. I don't think there's other factions attributed to them, but it'd be nice to see those stories getting built out. I know that we're not going to see that anytime soon in like the PvE campaign where you can play as them, but
Hmm.
I see in the future, like if Hex is continues to be successful and grows, that there's a lot of potential for them to build out those additional classes and groups into the campaign as maybe even playable characters and have storylines with them as well.
Yeah, definitely. All right, so two more pairings to go. Sapphire Ruby, predicting Sapphire Ruby is really action based from what I could tell so far, and I think with the way cards could interact, um, being able to create runes and actions seems to be the direction that Sapphire Shard and Sapphire and Ruby seems to be going. Would seem to make sense for me with like if there was some sort of action based rift spasm in set 7.
Yeah. My guess is there might be some sort of there's going to be something linked to charges because there's already like 3 or 4 cards that are spoiled that are charge based.
Hmm.
It makes arena regular constructed decks even look scary if there's not appropriate removal for them. We've seen a constant that's going to give you a charge every time you play an action. We've seen a energized 2-cost card that's going to give you 3 charges. So I think something that's going to be charge based will be pretty fun. Then of course, you know, you have access to Swamp Butt, which is going to be amazing. Even though he's a little slow to get going, but you know his name is Swamp Butt. He's the best troll you could play,
Yeah.
and I'll just be interested to see how this pairing works in limited. I'll probably try to push for it. I've always had really good luck when I've seen an opening in Sapphire Ruby and
Hmm.
gone for it in all of the limited rotation formats, and I have a guess that it's going to be just as effective in set 7.
Yeah, I think so too. I think the key is Sapphire and Ruby are such strong cards to begin, or such strong cards in this particular set to begin with. But a lot of the Ruby cards that aren't Illuminate will probably not be taken. If they're not Gladiator, they're probably not going to be taken. But they could still have value. Sapphire cards, the ones that aren't the Chaos Touch, the mill side, if those, or the Mary reverting transforming sides, if those aren't taken, you can still get a really, really good quality deck out of Sapphire Ruby. So really interested to see what direction this goes. We haven't seen specifically if there is a prismatic card for Sapphire Ruby, but I would assume because they're trying to allow for multiple each pairing to work well in limited, that there is probably at least one of each, shard combination in the common or uncommon slot.
Yeah, I'm sure we'll see something. And one other thing to add, just about like why Ruby and Sapphire always seems to do well in limited, is that Sapphire is usually based around card draw and tempo gain, and Ruby is usually based around aggression and combat tricks. So when you match the two together, you have ways to just sneak in damage that you don't have in other pairings. So sometimes it's just enough to get the job done. And other times it may fall flat, but there's it's usually a pretty strong combination.
All right, and moving right along, we have Blood Ruby. I don't know what this art is from. I just really liked it, so don't associate this card with Blood Ruby. I just chose it. From what I could tell of Blood Ruby, Blood has a lot of the cards out, the Chaos Touch out there that says if you have the highest attack. But Blood Sapphire generally doesn't pair well to have the highest attack. You're not pumping up your troops. You're not really gaining any as you said, Sapphire is more of a card about drawing more cards, that type of thing. Yeah. But Ruby is really, really well known for adding more attack. So Blood Ruby might be that particular push where...
Yeah, that's actually a really good call.
Where if you don't have the highest attack, you can runic if you draw the resource at the beginning of your turn, you're like, okay, I can make him have the highest attack or do things like that in order to push through, make troops unblockable.
And traditionally, blood and Ruby key to Orc, and Orc has always kind of been the more aggressive meta. So yeah, that totally makes sense. Especially with the unblockable blood troops we've seen, if you're able to pump up their attack with Ruby-based actions, like some of the runic things we've seen so far, I think that this could be the real aggressive format-defining limited archetype where they're basically asking you, do you have removal? If yes, you might win. If no, I'm going to win.
Yeah, and since you are, curiously enough, Blood and Ruby are probably the two shards that have, or the two shards that have the most removal.
True.
Somehow it feels like Diamond got a lot of removal in this particular limited with Chastise, Diamond's Favor, and what am I thinking?
Chastise, Diamond's Favor. What else is there? There is the set 5 stuff like
the Banishing.
Yeah.
So so there just seemed to be a lot more removal in Diamond, but we'll see if that will be the case. But Blood and Ruby always had a lot of removal. The cheap shots, the butchers, the strangles, the feed the flames, the pyre strikes, the explosive interludes. If you have a whole bunch of unblockable troops and you have ways to remove your opponent's bigger threats while you're attacking with your smaller threats that need the highest attack, that could be a very, very strong combination.
Yeah, that might be something I'm looking at when I'm drafting.
Yep. All right, so there are 10 color combinations, and we just went through all 10. Hopefully that does give you guys a little bit of an advantage coming up to whenever release weekend is, and everyone's cracking open those packs. If you get some extra wins in your drafts or in your Evos and gauntlets, please let us know. And thank you for watching. And one final thing, we were trying to think of a puzzle, and Nico basically said, you know what, why don't we make it very, very open-ended after this last week's puzzle? Break Wildlife. Make it.
Wait, are we going to do turn 5 or turn 4? Didn't we find a turn 4 solution?
We did find a turn 4 solution, so we'll accept the turn 5. And if you get a turn 4 solution, if you find the turn 4 solution, you can do double entry. Well, I'll make Nico have to RNG names a little bit more
I have to
difficult.
random.org extra numbers. Oh no.
Yeah.
Maybe if we get more than 10 submissions, that could be challenging. Well, let's see. Let's see if you guys can figure this out. Can you break this by turn 5? Can you break it by turn 4? It's pretty complicated to do the sequencing. So send me the sequencing just so that I can see it. But it's not that hard to figure out. If you follow things I say, you might even have a head start on this. But
yeah.
Anyway, no more hints than that. Good luck.
Yeah. Obvious things as you're playing cards. Please indicate your champion. Please indicate the resources you're playing and what your resource totals are at the start of any beginning turn. So just so we can track with it a little bit better.
Yeah, and send entries to nicosharp@gmail.com. I'll post it in the notes when I share this.
All right. Well, that's all I have this week. Nico, do you have anything else to add?
No. I mean, I like a lot of the spilled cards that we've seen so far. I am, as you mentioned, I do think the set will release next week on the 27th. But with that said, they're probably going to want to give us a week's notice before. So if we don't have a release date by tomorrow, then maybe I'm wrong. But I hope I'm right. And hopefully we're all enjoying this set next week on Tuesday. If the set does release on Tuesday, are we going to have another episode next Monday?
I would say if there is something, a release on Tuesday, I probably will not have time on Monday to help get all of that ready. I'll probably be doing some stuff in preparation for the release. So you'll probably have to come back. You can catch us again in 2 weeks if it does release next week. And we're making this sound like it's next week, huh? Like,
well, I think it is. I don't have any, like, I'm not really tied into, what's going on. I know you may know. Is it okay to say that you'll be kind of working on the downtime and hosting a stream?
I think that's okay to say. Yes, I will be hosting a stream during the downtime when the servers are down. I've been invited to the Hex offices again. So if you guys caught me last time during the Scars of War release, I'll probably be doing the same exact thing. Hopefully a 3-hour stream doesn't turn into 10 again like it did last time. But yeah.
Yeah. I'd love to say I would join you for part of that, but I know you'll probably be super busy. And I'll probably be stranded at work doing something crazy. So I wish you luck, and I'm sure it'll be fun. I'm sure you're going to give a lot of people ideas on how they can break the meta based on what you know already. But yeah, it'll be interesting to see whether or not that happens next week or if it's a week after. But I'm still pretty locked in on this set's going to come out at some point next week before the end of July or June.
All right. Well, I guess that's the end of that. Nico says it's coming out next week. From all of us here at Cornerstone, thanks for watching. Thanks for listening. Hope you guys enjoyed it.
See ya.